What's up, everyone? Welcome to the StarScript Observatory. This is Zach James, founder of StarScript, and I'm here with my good friend, Michael Mowgli.
Hey, y'all.
Michael Mowgli, me and him have been friends for quite some time, probably around 8 years now. He is a musician, singer, songwriter, producer, and engineer, and maybe much, much more. So we're going to talk a little bit today about Michael's history as a musician, what led him up to this point, what inspires him, and also into what he's currently working on. And then we're going to get into StarScript Legends a little bit. So let's get started. All right, Michael.
All right, Z4.
It all started with a boy and a dream. Is that where we're starting off at?
Sure, let's go there.
Okay.
All right.
Go for it.
Let's see. I think I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I was at church over in West Hills, California. And I was watching the bands play. We had a pretty rockin' band at this church, and I was obsessed with the drummer, and I would drum on the pew in front of me, just playing along with him. And I knew ever since I was little that music was, one of the foundations of my soul. It's all I wanted to do. And I think it took a little while before I started getting into instruments. I picked up trumpet in the 6th grade, but I also had extreme sports happening. And
Okay, which ones?
Skateboarding, rollerblading, snowboarding, skiing a little bit. Yeah,
all
surfing. I was like, it's probably an adrenaline
So I was
junkie.
on the saxophone. So
Oh, you're on saxophone.
Yeah, we'd be playing
Nice.
together in 6th grade
Oh, right on. Yeah, we would have been in the band.
if we knew each other.
But the extreme sports were kind of taking a precedent to the music making, and I knocked all my teeth out.
Oh, wow.
In a bad rollerblading accident. Yeah.
Jeez.
Trumpet was no more. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was pretty
Okay.
rough. And then I continued to skate for a while into high school, and then broke both ankles, and I then had to have a knee surgery, and it laid me out for a good 6 months. And guitar, I picked it up and started my first band. I think I was in the 9th grade.
Okay.
And yeah, I had my first taste of playing a show, and I was just like, this is what I want to do.
So with learning trumpet, because it was just similar, I had some history I did piano growing up before 6th grade. Then I was from like 6th and 7th grade, I was alto and tenor saxophone. I did tenor in jazz band. But then like kind of got out of music for a while, and then picked up a guitar in high school. And I was already musically trained. I already knew, how to read music and was musically trained to a certain extent. So picking up a new instrument was interesting.
Yeah.
But the twist for me was not that I knocked all my teeth out, was that I actually broke my elbow skateboarding.
Oh, no.
So similar histories.
Interesting.
Yeah, sure.
What kind of cast do you have, like full on for that?
Oh my gosh, they can't actually cast it because you have to keep the joint moving. So here's the joint right here, and this piece broke off, and then a piece of this broke off. And so I had to like keep it moving. So I had to wear this machine that would just move it like this up and down every day.
God.
And then I have to wear it for 8 hours a day. That was what the doctor prescribed. 8 hours a day wearing this machine that would move my arm up and down, so to keep my joint going while it healed. And then over time it just got more and more until I had full movement. But yeah, anyway,
That's gnarly.
continue. We're in high school right now.
So we're in high school. So,
Yeah.
bands are happening, and, they're forming and breaking up, and there's a lot of emotion in high school. I was one of the emo kids.
Okay.
The other kids at school used to say that a rain cloud followed me around.
Okay.
I was writing all these sad songs all the time.
Okay.
Just into Thursday and Thrice and things of that nature.
Love Thrice.
Such great bands.
Mhm.
And a lot of Dashboard Confessional, for sure.
Okay.
And when I was 17, I got this band going called Onset, and we met a producer in Hollywood. Like we all snuck out of our houses on a Wednesday night at 10 p.m. and went and met this guy because we had a chance to, go meet some Hollywood producer. And we played for him at this rehearsal space at Hollywood and Vine, and he was like, I want to cut a record for you. And I was like, cut this album. It sounds really good. I just listened to it today, actually. It sounds like awesome. I can't believe, that this many years later that the tones are as high quality as they are. And we ended up getting a deal, like still in high school.
Wow.
And
being an LA local. Okay.
Yeah.
Doing what everybody's trying to do when they come to LA.
It was wild.
And you're already doing it in high school.
This label put us on the road. We got to play some dates on the Vans Warped Tour, and it was rocking. And then unfortunately we broke up. But
Okay, as the destiny with many bands.
indeed. So from there, I was playing with a few friends and kind of jumping from band to band, and then I started a new fun band called the Mowglis, and with some dear friends, and we created a collective, kind of like what you're doing with StarScript. We had about 40 artists together and a website, and everyone had their page, and they were all collaborating on each other's stuff. And for a time, it was just absolutely incredible. Oh my God, we were rocking and having so much fun. Kind of, I used to call it our summer of love. Like everyone was just on the highest creative level possible, and we were every night. It was a golden age, yeah, for like 2 years, and then things fell apart as they do, and bands kind of started to dissipate. But the Mowglis kept going, and we ended up getting a deal like with a division of Island Records and going on a huge tour and having a song on the radio, and it was epic. It was so good.
And that song is San Francisco.
San Francisco,
which
yeah.
is still played on the radio today. There's sometimes where I could be anywhere.
And it'll find you.
I hear that song come
awesome.
on the radio.
Yeah, that is so cool. Oh
okay, I actually was in the music video also.
You were, that's right. Were you holding
Amazing.
the paper submarine? Is that?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember like walking or running multiple times, and it was like 4 hours of walking, running, doing the same scene or something.
We shot that in one shot, one continuous take. It was good.
Okay.
16 takes.
That's right. That's what it was, because it was like a camera, a one shot. Okay.
Yeah, it was
now
great.
I remember.
That was awesome. I had like a full-on experience with the industry. I got to meet a lot of industry people and see how the business works when you're up at the top. And it was not the path I wanted to be on.
Right.
So.
And how big? What did the band get at that point in time? Because you got radio stuff. You were playing shows. You were going on tour all over. And how many like views, or what's it look like? Because the band's still together, right?
The band is still together. Yeah, they're rocking to this day. We hit a high point back in 2013. We had like 5 million views, and we would get like middle tier on festival flyers and play some pretty big stages. And then like we opened for Imagine Dragons, which was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Awesome.
So it got up there. It was weird. It's just like it's a tough life living in a van, 10 to 12 hour drives every day, and then playing shows every night. Yeah, it's a pretty tough gig. It's kind of weird up there. I wrote a few songs about the experience. It really started to feel like you were writing music to sell products, and like
it's a different type of disposition.
Yeah, clashing creatively with business mindsets and like trying to quantify a formula for success is just things that I was not ready for, not jiving with at the time, and it led to my departure.
And what's funny is it's not necessarily the thing, which is making music, it's the way we do it. And so if the way we do it changes, then the thing itself, the product, is spoiled.
It can be.
And the original songs aren't created with those concepts in mind. They were just created for the love of music. And how many times do we hear, I really like the old stuff of the band. And so why is that during that time and then all of a sudden bands, even big bands, that go on for years and years, you don't hear about their stuff later on down the road, or most people don't hear about it. They only hear about the early stuff, like the early Dylan or some other huge bands out there. You may be more familiar with the early stage stuff than the later stage stuff. I think of U2 too. I know, even though they kind of stayed consistent pretty much, and they got had some hits in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff also.
Yeah.
So
on a level like that, it's interesting. It's like they have their big like soulful spirit songs that tons of people resonate with. Like you just have to listen to it over and over again, and things get to a really high level, and you're doing a lot of business, you're making a lot of income, and then you have to continue putting out products. And the later ones, like a lot of the hardcore fans aren't so interested in, because it doesn't resonate on the same level. It's almost like the intention that the art was made with starts to shift, and that can be perceived in the music, and thus you're not feeling as pulled towards it. There's not the same magnetism. So those bands, they still maintain like a high level in terms of where they are in the industry, but their products are like sort of put in the back burner, but they find ways to continue making lots of income because they get placements, tons of licenses. Even though it's not that well known of a song, it could be everywhere, background of movies, commercials, stuff like that. So it enables them to still
the name drop.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting. I could feel that starting to happen. It was not so attractive to me.
Okay, so it started to happen. You decided to leave a band that was signed by a division or a part of Island Records, getting millions of views and getting booked. You said mid-level, bands for tours, opening for, really big bands like Imagine Dragons. And then you felt like it kind of, being signed, being in that position, that influence with the business mindset, not necessarily business mindset, but just the pressure to make products a certain way. Rather than for some authentic reason, you make it for the love of making it. You're actually making it because it was a business.
That was a huge part of it, yeah. And we had come up with some songs that like made it into our set, and it was a big band, so there were a lot of writers, and we were doing these writing sessions with these big time people and producers that were really good at creating these perfect songs. And we started singing like 4 or 5 of these songs every night, and it was just starting to feel so weird. It was just not down. And then we'd get like that moment, we'd hit San Francisco and be like, yes, it's back again. And then we'd, go back into the other songs, and over again. It was just, I was starting to feel like one of those bands when I was a kid where I was like, I don't like this record. What did they do?
What did they like?
Let's
what happened?
Get back to the other thing. What happened?
Happens in like many different things. It happens in relationships where like you have this magic and you lose it. And that's where I think, and I like to, I guess, root it back to love, because if you really love something and you're passionate about it, that's where it really comes out. And if you fall out of love, if you get into like a desire or some other funk, then you don't have the magic anymore. And so I always like to say that love is a skill, whether it be a love in a relationship or love for creating something. It's a skill to harness it, because it's not going to be there as easily. You have to like learn what makes you tick, and maybe that changes over time, and finding methods to tap into that creative power to build something that you just know. You're like, wow. It's like sometimes you'll just hear like a record, right? You're like, dude, this record is just dead on all the way through from start to finish, like the Doors' first album or something like that.
Or Mars Volta, De Laus in the Comatorium. You got to check that one out. It's so good.
Okay.
I love that you say love is a skill right now. I've quoted you at 2 different wedding ceremonies as a holy man. I've been like, I know a holy man who says love is a skill.
Oh my gosh.
Best man speech at Papa Bear's wedding. I said
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you're awesome.
Good. So what happened after that? You're alone now. You've worked to a point to where so many people are just trying to even get there. You're there.
Yeah, and then I left.
Decide to leave.
It's crazy. I literally opened for Imagine Dragons, and the next day I was like, I'm out. Wow. This is crazy. Yeah, it was kind of like a weird at the drive-in moment where it's like we've hit this plateau, and I have to go a different direction.
Okay.
So the last few years, the last 4 years have been spent kind of cocooning and mastering my voice and my writing and my instrument, and also sound. I've been obsessed with sound, learning about, how to control sound in different rooms. And
you become a sound person at events, right?
Yeah, I had to be a sound person when the Mowgli started, because there were so many people that, somebody had to run the board. So I started learning back then, and I had also I'd been mixing at this church. Like I went on, they needed somebody, and I just went to help. I love all the buttons and the faders and twisting knobs, and making a room just sound glorious is so good. So I've been kind of like channeling whatever I thought was, the best way the frequencies fit together, and learning how they behave in different rooms, so that I can later, when I am back out on tour and hitting it again, every space I walk into, I can tune it properly. Okay. Yeah. So I've been in a big cocoon phase. Okay. Been touring a little bit. Independent touring. Lots of, we do potlucks. Okay. Me and my boy Papa Bear, we have a project called the Intrepid Travelers. Right. And we go up and down the West Coast twice a year. And we play like farms, and every show is a potluck. It's great. Yeah, it's all organic and good. Okay. And just kind of like keeping the flame alive, but not being totally involved in the game at the moment. Not being like hungry to move that thing forward. It's not time yet, or no. Yeah. It's just more of a relaxed project. Exactly. Okay. Yeah, I had to recover for quite a bit. It's exhausting to be out there and dealing with so many people all the time. It was kind of wild, when you're playing a show every night with 1,000 people and then meeting them and saying hello every night. It gets exhausting. It took a lot out of me. I can imagine. I can imagine. So tell me more about what you're currently working on and what the next year or 2 years looks like. So I'm working on an acoustic EP that's collection of probably like 5 or 6 songs that I've had for a while and just have never released.
Okay.
That's really fun, and I like that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have the Intrepid Travelers record, which I've been probably writing and recording and producing for, the better part of like 2.5, 3 years.
Okay.
And hopefully that comes out. It's taking quite a few turns that were unexpected, and now it's become very electronic. We now like have computers on stage with us and analog synthesizers and loopers, and we're looping live in Ableton, and it's like MIDI clock synced with Papa Bear's looper so that he can hit a button and it like changes mine. Everything stays at the same tempo, and we're like locked on the grid. It's crazy. I don't really understand how it all works. And then we have multiple instruments. I carry my flutes and my guitar, and we have all these sounds. We turn our guitar into a bass with a pedal in a moment and lay a beat, and then I have like these beat pads so I can make drum sounds as I'm going.
Okay.
And we call it like this quantum folktronica thing. It's based around acoustic guitars, but it turns into a dance party.
Folktronica. Okay. And just for those who aren't aware, the Mowglis, what type of music was that? What do you call it?
That was kind of like a folk rock gospel thing that
Okay.
turned into like a poppy rock kind of a thing.
Okay.
And
then so
rooted in rock and roll.
Okay, and Intrepid Travelers is
Rooted in folk, but it's
rooted in
turning
folk.
electronic.
And
yeah.
what are like just to give also people perspective, like the Mowglis, they reminded me of I'm trying to think of like Arcade Fire first album.
Yeah. Oh, thank
There's
you.
definitely that vibe
That's
to it.
awesome.
It's got the like the chorus type background or a lot of people shouting. I don't know. I just remember when Arcade Fire came out with that one of the songs on that album.
Okay.
That was the vibe. Also Yellow Card, I've always said.
Yes, I love
They
Yellow
reminded me of
Card.
Yellow Card. But Deepak's the one with the violin. So
Uh-huh.
there's no violin on yours.
We'll have to get together
Yeah,
and do
and
some
then
Yellow
for this
Card.
one, for the Intrepid Travelers, what do they like? If you could say other bands that are like them, so people can get an idea. What would
Interesting. It's kind of like the Chemical Brothers meets Nine Inch Nails meets some. There's like some Beatles elements. There's like folky bits. And there was one other one I was thinking of. It's gone from me now. It's folk based, and then it incorporates these electronic elements. So yeah, I'm not really sure who to compare it to.
be? Okay.
It's
Okay.
out there.
Okay. And then with the EP that you're coming out with, what about that one?
That is, it's got some fun, like just acoustic punk rock vibes, a little bit of protest songs.
And you're gonna play us one of those songs today?
Yeah. All right. This is The Circle of Butad.
Followed you down to the center of it all. It's a place so deep that you can only go alone. And when we left, our love was strong. But now we are apart, and I think they think that they can see it. Yeah, and that they should be the ones to show the people the word as it unfolds. They think if they believe, then it is so. And on my way in, I found a dragon. His breath ablazed across the ceiling. Some settler told him I was coming, and when I found him, he was awaiting. So I step back and pull my saber, and I start to sing Second Sonata. Then I put my blade into his coat, and I pray he is the death of my evil. Church, everybody has a part. It's written in your heart. In you is the kingdom of God. head beside the dragon, and for the moment he's asleep in. I think I only made him angry. You cannot kill the things that plague you, so our only hope is in a friendship, even if we have to force the bond from hatred. And yeah, I know we're not the same. I thank the gods we can distinguish, so let's just agree that we are Thayer. Yeah, and that nothing can protect us, so that the peace we live is sacred, so that our love is so contagious. Yes, everybody has a part. It's written in our heart. In you is the kingdom of love.
All right, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the song. What inspired it?
So I had spent an evening with you here in this place, actually,
Is that
down the rabbit hole.
Is that where you get the name from? I thought I heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you guys called it Botod, but I called it Bootod.
Bootod,
Uh-huh.
yeah, which was an acronym for the Benevolent Order of the Temple of Dance.
There it is.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we had a crazy night over here.
We did. We had a wild time, and it had an effect on me.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Cool. And has that song been recorded yet?
It has not. It's
So
just,
it's
it
just-
only exists in my head.
it's
It's,
just
going to
floating
be on
around.
the EP for
Okay.
sure.
And
yeah.
it has like, it's like a minor, right? Is
it is.
in minor?
Yeah, D minor and
Yeah.
A minor.
Yeah, it
5.
sounds like more of the sorrow sound, which is actually what I'm into.
Right
I
on.
really like minor tones or minor key. Okay, cool. So
It's about
yeah, tell me
Oh yeah,
about
just it's about like going in and finding that sort of darker part of your shadow, and rather than trying to eradicate it from your system, making friends with it.
Okay.
Kind of finding like a peace and a balance, or attempting to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of like this journey that I had going within, that was inspired by that night, because we were just talking about consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and I would go in and try to get rid of my shadow, and it would never go away.
Right.
The more I hid it, the bigger it got.
Because all sides of us exist. We
Mm-hmm.
just kind of need to accept them and say, okay, you're this, you have this one, these wants, these desires. And then I kind of like to imagine that all words, anything that we can, that basically that you could put into words, are spirits
Mm-hmm.
in themselves, and that we can communicate with them and say, oh, now I've got, this feeling here. And then I personify it. So I'm a big fan of personification. In fact, when I meditate, and I kind of meditate on the crown and being like in this like royal setting where I'm in the kingdom. And then all of these petitioners or the people can kind of come and communicate with me. And so I'll basically see them all for what they are, which is they're all just a bunch of, desires and wants and thoughts. And so I personify them. I say, oh yeah, you want this, you want that. That's great. I'm not doing anything right now. I'm meditating. I'm not entertaining you, I know. And it's kind of like also about like they're like little kids who just want you to serve them in some way. And so every day we kind of wake up and we just try to please all of our senses pretty much. We want things to smell a certain way, to sound a certain way, to feel a certain way. And so every day we're kind of enslaved by our senses or in service to our senses. So when you meditate, it's like overthrowing the false power that your senses have over you, because you're going to immediately say, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to be productive. I want to, listen to this sound, or this noise is distracting, or whatever. Meditation's like, okay, that's all well and fine. That's great. You're here, you're complaining, but I'm not moving. And I'm not, you could sit there. It's kind of like a parent saying, okay, you want to throw a tantrum on the floor? I can't stop you from throwing your tantrum. I'm gonna go continue with what I'm doing while you're there, and eventually those things that are kind of nagging at you will end up dissolving, and they'll being like, okay, this strategy isn't working anymore. Like, Dad's not just like gonna do whatever we want to do whenever we want it. So anyway, that's great. Quite a path into spirits. Thought spirits, as I like to call them.
I never thought of meditating as rebellious. That's so cool.
It is totally a rebellion, like against all. You're basically, like I was saying, overthrowing the false power that your senses have over you, that you are governing your senses rather than your senses governing you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Good stuff.
Cool. Thank you. So I wanted to know what kind of apps you're currently using besides the production stuff, the stuff that you're using for recording and things like that. What are you using to get the word out about your new material? What's your strategy?
I use SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and Instagram primarily to get the word out. And I just did an experiment with Bandcamp, which I thought was interesting. I recorded a song and released it ceremoniously for Easter Sunday. And my family's Catholic, and I always, I love to honor my family's kind of religious heritage. It seems like the only culture my family has. Okay. So I do something for them for Easter. So I had recorded this song and played it for them, and they dug it, and I recorded it, and so I put it out on Easter Sunday, and I just, for no reason, set the price at $20 because I really worked hard on it. We're talking like maybe 100 hours of work. Okay. And I was like, man, I don't want to put it out for $1. Like, it's worth more than that. And actually, based on things that, conversations that we've had, you're like, what's the value of your work? You set your value, and it's
about market at the end of the day, though.
Throw a number out, throw a market out at the marketplace, or throw a number out at the marketplace and see how it reacts. And sure enough, like 6 people bought it, and I was like, no way. Normally, if I put something up for $1, I don't even get anything. But it was like the fact that I wrote like a little bit and said, this is what I think it's worth. There was some of my fans were like, yeah, that's what it's worth.
So do you remember Mr. Brainwash? Or I think that was someone who was like affiliated, like one of those street artists, or affiliated with like Banksy, or in that world. No. But I remember he was like selling his pieces for like $30,000, and they'd be like simple pieces that you could do in an afternoon. And he would just put them up for $30,000 and sell them.
That's crazy.
So it was crazy. Just its perceived value. And in the entertainment industry is really perceived because there's no need. Right. It's not like, we could say that there's a need, right? We need to have music, but there's no, it's not like water or anything like that. So it's interesting that it is kind of like, how much should a movie cost? Well, I guess it depends. How much do you want to see it, or how much do people want to see it? Of course, there is kind of a standardized price, but yeah, things are shifting and prices are shifting all the time. And it just depends also if a lot of people want it, like the new Tool album. I'm sure Tool could have easily sold their album for $100, not put it on Spotify or anything like that. And they would have ridiculous amounts of sales for $100 because the demand is so high for them to produce a new album.
Oh, yeah.
Which they finally did.
And it's good.
Okay, so you're using those applications, and what challenges have you found with just like kind of being independent during this time? Because you definitely face new challenges when you have a record label and they're doing the marketing for you, they're booking you. I think you were on like Jimmy Kimmel before, and they're booking you they have all these connections, they're doing the PR. They're making sure that your stuff gets distributed, that it's on the radio. And so without having that, using the apps that you're using right now, what challenges do you feel like you're facing?
It's like viewership.
Exposure.
Yeah, exactly. It's it's having it's visibility. You're kind of invisible without that machine working behind you to put your name in front of lots and lots of people. That is the hardest thing. And yeah, I don't really know how to achieve that without a viral video. That's been something on my mind. It's like, do I try to create something to go viral, and then am I sort of back in the same problem I had before when I was in the industry, where it's like I'm creating something for this reason that has nothing to do with why I'm creating. You
Right.
get sort of sucked into these weird cycles.
I think that's where the whole sellout term comes from and stuff like that. And I think, didn't Radiohead, didn't they say that they created Creep or something to be more mainstream or something that would catch on? Then they could do their more experimental odd things. I just heard that. So
I know they had a problem with playing it for a while.
Yeah, something. So that's definitely a challenge getting discovered. And that's kind of where one of the solutions that we want to bring with StarScript Legends, which is currently in development after 2 years of R&D and me having to learn code pretty much to build it on my own initially. It is currently in development. I started on December 28th, actually.
Nice.
And so I'm excited to show it to everybody. But one of the solutions that we want to provide is to help creators get discovered. And a couple ways that we want to do that. One is through incentivized sharing, which we talked a little bit about earlier, which is that for Legends, which is a crowdfunding application, when you originate a project, whether it be which we call a production on the platform, which could be a podcast, it could be a music album, it could be a book, comic book, TV show. But when you originate that project, it basically has a share allocation, a distribution, knowing that whoever created the account, they may need to collaborate with other people on the platform, and that you could assign and allocate those shares in exchange for creative works contributed by other creators that are on the platform. And that way you don't necessarily have to have the money to build your team in the beginning. If you have a project that people like, they may actually just contribute in exchange for a little piece of the distribution that happens from the crowdfund, and that the products are released on the platform, and so people can actually discover new music on the platform. All music lovers can just go on the platform, discover music, search by genre, find it, contribute to your campaign, add it to their library, and then be able to share it also. And so that's where incentivized sharing comes in, is any fan can actually get paid by sharing other people's content on the platform. And if when it's shared on their page, which we call the showcase section, and someone comes in, goes to their page, clicks on it, and then becomes a contributor to your production, then they would get paid if you so chose. If that was part of your deal and how you structured your production, they would get paid a portion of the promoter pool for exposing. And for as long as that user that they brought on is contributing, they would get paid a portion of that. And you could, of course, designate whether it's 5% or 10% that go to the promoter pool, and they would get a part of the promoter pool that would be basically relative to how many people they got on versus how many people everybody else got on. So I think incentivized sharing would be a good solution for something like that. I don't know. What do you think?
The reason I think it's so attractive, as kind of an independent artist right now, is that I can enter into this big community of people that are doing pretty amazing things, and I have the chance to collab with them. And just the fact that they're bringing their fans to their sites, and then I could cross pollinate with their internet traffic, and my internet traffic can go to them. You mentioned a showcase section on everybody's profile where it's like, this is who I'm working with, or this is who I like.
Yep.
So you're really getting a lot of traffic just going all over the place when you have fans viewing different people's sites.
And who is the best marketer out there? I think there's stats out there that show, for instance, paid advertising. You can get the content in front of somebody, but there's a lot of studies that show that paid advertising is nowhere as good to convert as PR. Okay, and the reason why PR is better, public relations, and being interviewed and have someone talk about it, because the content comes through more organically than something like a paid ad, where someone's like, hey, buy this, you want this, buy this. It's presented better. Like, let's say if you did influencer marketing, where you had some influencers say, hey, I really love this music. Now it's coming from someone that they trust, right? So there's always different ways that you can market, but certainly the fan who loves the music or loves the production has the most such a passion, because they actually like it, and so they naturally share it. I know when I like things, when I like movies, I tell everybody about them, and I convince them in one way or another to go see that movie or go read that book or whatever it is. I'm a big natural promoter, and that's valuable.
Oh yeah.
That I am a natural promoter. And there's a lot of people out there who are working on products that say, man, if you love this, I would love for you to share it, and I would love to pay you. I don't have any money right now, but hey, if you get somebody that comes on and there's money that's coming in, I'll give you a portion of it. It's kind of a a nice little ecosystem that's set up that's going to incentivize fans who already love what you're doing to share it because they can actually make money off of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And residual income.
Are you going to get a ticker tape? It's starting to feel like, you're trading shares. You got fans trading shares. Everyone's like, I need a piece of this person and that person.
Yeah, that's interesting you talk about trading because we do have to keep legal compliance in mind.
But if you're trading time.
Well, money is pretty much converted through time in many ways. So that's what kind of always kind of got me about, what was it, the time bank or some type of
time banking
concept, because at the end of the day, I think it's going to end up yielding the same result.
Probably.
But then there's also people that say, well, what if it's not about time? What if it's about result? And I can share your work to this page over here, and I can get you 10 million views because of the level of exposure that I have and the target that they are and what you are. And they say, oh, well, you only spent 5 minutes doing it. So... And then they're going to say, okay, well, no deal, And so all of a sudden now it's not just about time; it's also about the value. So it just depends, of course, on the agreement of the parties. But
value quantification is definitely a major challenge.
Sure. And obviously, you're aware that my history, I have a lot of love for banking. Kind of a weird thing to be in love with, but I really love banking. I love finance and law, and the using different currencies. I'm into blockchain technology. I really just love it all. I love the diversity and all these different ways that we could exchange value with one another. So, but there is currently no coin structure for Legends. We're going to be using blockchain tech, but we're not creating a coin. And there's a lot of ideas that I have, which I'm not going to get into too much detail about right now, but that can help the ecosystem even more. Actually, I'll talk about one thing that's not necessarily coin related, and that is if you create a new production, one of the things that you can have on there is, let's say you want to do a special deal for your first 10 users, because who are the most important 10 contributors? Who's the top 10 most important contributors? Your first 10.
Sure.
Right? And so you want to give them a special incentive to be on there. So maybe you'll give it a discount for just those first 10 people. As long as they stay on there, they get it for this much per month. They get access to your content for this much. And then from 10 to 100, maybe there's another tier. And so that way, as the demand increases, the price will end up going up. So people who are like in the 10,000 world, they're not going to get the same deal as the people who are the first 10 or the first 100. But you really want to incentivize those people to stay. And you say, hey, if you stay contributing and you stay in that top 100 or the top 10, you're going to get that price. But as soon as you leave, then the 11th person is going to get that 10 spot. And they're going to get it for the lower price. So you can't leave.
Yeah.
So it's a way to incentivize people to stay contributing because they are an early contributor and you want them to stay on. And so you basically give them access to your content, voting rights, whatever it may be, for a lesser price. So that is one model that we are thinking about implementing into the platform. But okay, so I know we had the StarScript network that you had signed up for, and you basically just have a blank profile on there right now, but we're going to have the new one. The
typical musician. It was just, the setup was too much for me. I couldn't handle it.
So you can actually see Michael on there right now. If you have an account with the StarScript network, you can see him on there. That's our temporary network that's up right now. But currently we are actively working on Legends 1.0 that will replace the StarScript network. And hopefully that will be done within a couple months. So it just the progress is pretty good, but sometimes we have some setbacks, and so we're not sure on an exact time. But hopefully we'll have it there soon, and you will be one of our pre-alpha and beta testers on the platform. So you'll be able to use it, and I'm going to be bugging you, and you're going to get give you access at its earliest stages. You're going to get access to all the bugs. But you're also going to have a lot of feedback, which is what a lot of people can have when they contribute to StarScript's crowdfunding campaign, is they will be able to give feedback at very early stages of development. They'll get to try it out and use it and give valuable feedback that will influence us to create the product in one way or another, or prioritize in one way or the other. So super valuable, because I value people also for you who's had the kind of was independent, then moved to being signed, now independent, may still be open to something like that if the deal's right, but understand how the deal could not be right for you. And so being very careful and all the challenges you have either way, and then getting your feedback on when we create this platform, what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm stoked to be. I'm kind of coming out of my cocoon phase, and to have StarScript for me to interact with is so like just amazing that there's a community that's here, for creatives. It's wonderful.
And it's a lot of local artists right now in LA. We definitely are getting people from other areas that are signing up. So it's going to be interesting who we have on there. I know I got a long list of people that I know and both in this small city of Los Angeles that just has artists everywhere. If you're missing any, you just go walk down the street and somebody will be performing. So
it's true. Yeah. So your plans are to expand to, have lots and lots of artists and lots of fans and
tons of users, creators on the platform that are basically have struggled with just trying to mix and match all the different platforms out there, social media to get exposure, and then using a Patreon or something else for revenue, and kind of having to go out and learn all these different apps, trying to make them work together to build an ecosystem that works for them, that enables them to sustain themselves as an artist, to collaborate, right? And that's just lots of work. And that's, one of the things I always mention is that when you decide to go independent as a creator, and you're saying, I'm just going to self-publish my book on Amazon. I'm just going to produce my own album. I've got it. I'm learning, and I've got friends. I could do some trades here and there. And I think I can make it happen. As soon as you enter on that path, you are henceforth an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of independents don't necessarily realize that they're an entrepreneur, that it's not, and entrepreneurs tend to focus very heavily on the product or service, which in the case of a musician would be, let's get the album out, let's get on tour. But that getting on tour, getting the album out is not the only thing that needs to be there. You could have an amazing product, but if nobody is there to experience it, and if nobody can discover it, then it doesn't really matter. Or if you have bad contracts, or if you have no contracts, then it can be very challenging. You could have artist disputes, and also you can have disputes with the people who are trying to do your marketing and being a record label for you. So there's tons of challenges that exist out there, and for us to create an ecosystem that kind of takes care of production, marketing, and the experience themselves, the experience itself, all in one platform. It's very comprehensive, but everything will be working together in order to make the ecosystem function.
Yeah, it can foster an environment where people can, learn from each other and thrive and receive the help they need in order to get to the place they want to go.
Right.
It's dope, man.
Cool. Well, so I'm excited for another interview at some point in the future. We're going to get an update from you at some point. And I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and it's really fun when you're just interviewing friends also, because it's like such a more fun, entertaining environment, I guess, where you have microphones and lights set up. And
it's an official conversation.
It's an official conversation that's going to be recorded and published. So it's interesting to see. But yeah, I'm really excited to have you here and have you on the platform, to also be episode number 3, to be our first live performance.
All right.
So thank you so much. And I hope to do this again soon.
All right. Peace, y'all.
All right.
Thanks, Z-Core. Yeah. Ooh-ah.